House Republicans will open their hearings tomorrow into the Benghazi attack that killed Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. But they have already released transcripts from State Department officials, including one witness, the former Deputy Chief of Mission, Gregory Hicks. Hicks claims that 2 of the 4 Americans might have been saved if he had been able to send 4 Special Forces operatives from Tripoli to scare off the terrorists. But he said he was overruled by the military. Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz is one of the leaders of this investigation and joins me now. Thank you very much, Congressman. Thanks for being with us.
Andrea. Thank you.
I know Gregory Hicks has very dramatic testimony, which we're anticipating tomorrow. We've read the transcripts. Let me just posit what the Pentagon is saying and get your response, because the Pentagon says, number one, that 6 had been sent. All sides acknowledge that those 4 Special Forces operatives had to remain in Tripoli to guard the embassy there, and that they were not combat ready. And that his suggestion as well that there could have been a flyover of F-16s from Aviano in Italy to buzz the terror attackers and scare them off wouldn't have worked, because they were 5 hours away and would have to be refueled midair, and there were not refuelers present. Has your committee taken that argument into consideration?
Well, sure. That's why we want to hear testimony from the career Foreign Service person who is the senior-most person on the ground. This is not a political appointee. Gregory Hicks, I found him to be a real patriot when I went there in the first week of October. We want to hear firsthand accounts, not from the politicians, but from the people who have firsthand accounts.
No, I take that point, but he is not a military man. He's a diplomat, and a very senior one, experienced one with great credibility. No argument there. But he's not a military man, and what I'm suggesting is that the military argument is that what he is suggesting, which might have saved 2 lives, because it was Sean Smith and Ambassador Stevens who were killed in those first few hours of the assault, and then it was afterwards when there was a break in the action, and then the second assault didn't start until 5:15 in the morning. So all of that is stipulated. Well, but the Pentagon is saying it wouldn't have worked.
That's a change in the account, because that's new information. The Pentagon has never said that. The Accountability Review Board said there was no way to get any more assets there. But what we've heard, and at least what we anticipate hearing tomorrow, is that Gregory Hicks is going to testify. These gentlemen, these 4, were dressed. They're ready to go. These are special operations types of people. I'm not sure their exact title, but they were going to get in the car to go to the airport. They were told to stand down. So at the Pentagon here in the last few hours is changing their story. That is new news. And the idea that this attack started at 9:40 local time and it was still past 6 a.m. the next morning before we were able to get people out of there. Even if there was a few hours that it would take in order to stand up a supersonic plane to buzz the compound there to try to scare off the would-be attackers, there's still plenty of time. You get on a Delta flight out of Washington, D.C. and make it to Benghazi in less time. So I think this is, again, a very, it's still not explained. And if what you're saying, I believe you, Andrea, that's new news.
Now, let me also put out the statement that came yesterday from Tom Pickering and Admiral Mullen, who chaired the Special Review Board. They say, from the beginning of the ARB, which is the Special Review Board process, we had unfettered access to everyone and everything, including all the documentation we needed. Our marching orders were to get to the bottom of what happened, and that's what we did. They're pushing back really hard against any suggestion of a cover-up or any suggestion that Hillary Clinton withheld State Department witnesses from them.
Well, they never even interviewed Secretary Clinton. She was obviously involved. How can you do a credible report and not even interview the Secretary of State? Second point, I would point you to page 37, because you can see very definitively they said there were no military assets that could have gone there and that the communication was great. They didn't make any mention of what you said, Andrea. They said there were no military assets. And yet those people, we believe, were told to stand down. So, again, the ARB, I think, is really questionable, because they didn't necessarily interview everybody, including the Secretary of State, and they're making some very definitive statements that they didn't even talk, for instance, about the FEST, the Foreign Emergency Support Team, that is there in the State Department that is uniquely trained. They tabletop how to deal with these situations. That's not even mentioned in the ARB report, not in the unclassified version. So why would they say that they've done a complete report? These people weren't even involved and engaged in this. And that to me, is what we're going to hear from Mark Thompson.
Do you want to call Pickering and Mullen and others involved in that process and ask them why they didn't pursue these leads? They say they pursued every lead. You're saying they didn't.
We have invited them since the moment the ARB was done to please come in, chat with us, share with us, do it in an informal way if you want. Of course I'd love to chat with them. They've refused every outreach that we've made to actually chat with them, sit around a table, ask and pepper them questions. They've just refused to do it. I don't know why. We can do it in a bipartisan way, but they've refused to do that.
We will follow up. Thank you very much. And of course, we'll be following the hearings all day tomorrow. Thanks. And we'll be right back.